AZ sound. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? I've never told this story all the way through because every time I try, people either laugh too early or stop listening right before it matters. But since this is Reddit and we're all anonymous ghosts haunting each other's screens, here it goes. It started during the worst year of my life. Not the haha adulting is hard kind of worst. I mean the kind where time feels sticky. Like every day you wake up already exhausted from surviving yesterday. The kind where silence is louder than noise. The kind where you start bargaining with the universe in the shower. I was 27. I had just been laid off from a job I hated but relied on. My girlfriend of 5 years left me with a sticky note that said I need to choose myself, which I later learned was code for I've already chosen someone else. My dad had been diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's, and my apartment flooded because my upstairs neighbor tried to DIY a bidet. I wish I were joking. Everything I thought I was building collapsed in the span of 6 months. Career? Gone. Relationship? Gone. Future plans? Vaporized. Even my houseplants died, which felt personal. I did what any rational person would do. I stopped answering texts, lived off instant ramen, and stayed awake until sunrise watching documentaries about shipwrecks. Something about watching other people hit rock bottom made mine feel survivable. One night, after a particularly rough call with my mom where she tried very hard not to cry and I failed very hard not to notice, I grabbed my jacket and left my apartment without a plan. No phone charger, no destination, just walking. It was late fall, cold but not cruel. The city had that hollow quiet it only gets after midnight, when even the drunks have gone home and the streetlights buzz like tired insects. I walked for hours, circling neighborhoods I barely recognized, letting my thoughts spiral into the usual greatest hits. You wasted your time. Everyone else figured it out. This is your fault. This is all you'll ever be. Eventually, my feet brought me to the old train station on the edge of town. It had been closed for years, replaced by something modern and sterile. But the building still stood. Brick crumbling, windows boarded, graffiti layered like sedimentary rock. I don't know why I went inside. Curiosity, maybe, or self-destructive nostalgia. Or the part of me that hoped something, anything, might interrupt the loop in my head. Inside, it smelled like dust and rust and old rain. Moonlight filtered through broken panes, cutting silver lines across the floor. I sat on what used to be a bench and finally let myself cry. The ugly kind where your chest hurts and your face contorts and you don't recognize the sounds coming out of you. That's when I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, echoing. I wiped my face, embarrassed, even though no one was supposed to be there. From the shadows emerged a woman. Mid-60s maybe, wrapped in a long coat that looked too nice for a place like that. Her hair was silver and wild, like she'd stopped trying to tame it years ago and the world was better for it. She didn't look surprised to see me. She didn't look scared. She just nodded, like she'd been expecting me. Rough night, she said. I laughed bitterly. That's one way to put it. She sat down beside me, leaving just enough space to be polite. For a while, we said nothing. The silence felt safe, rare, like sitting next to someone on a long train ride where neither of you feels the need to fill the air. Finally, she spoke. You know, she said, this used to be my favorite place. I frowned. The abandoned train station? She smiled. Back when it wasn't abandoned. Something about her voice. Steady, grounded, made it easy to talk. I told her everything. The job, the breakup, my dad, the sense that I was falling behind some invisible schedule everyone else seemed to have memorized at birth. She listened without interrupting. No platitudes, no advice yet, just listening. When I finally ran out of words, she exhaled softly and looked out at the moonlit tracks. Can I tell you something? She asked. Sure. She turned to me, eyes sharp but kind. The worst lie we tell people is that life is supposed to make sense. I shrugged. It doesn't feel like a lie when everyone else seems fine. She chuckled, a low, knowing sound. They're not. Then she said the advice. The thing that lodged itself into my bones and refused to leave. She said, stop trying to be understood by the version of you that no longer exists. I stared at her. What? She leaned back against the bench. You keep measuring yourself against an old blueprint. Old expectations. Old dreams. Of course you feel like you're failing. You're playing a game that already ended. I didn't know what to say. My chest felt tight, like something was loosening that I hadn't realized was clenched. She continued, gently but firmly. You're grieving whether you admit it or not. Not just people or jobs. You're grieving who you thought you'd be. And that's okay. But you can't keep asking a ghost for permission to move on. I felt tears again, but different this time. Quieter, cleaner. How do you know all this? I asked. She smiled sadly. Because I spent most of my life doing exactly what you're doing now. We sat there for a long time after that. She told me stories about traveling when she was younger, about mistakes she made because she was afraid to disappoint people who weren't even paying attention anymore, about loving deeply and losing badly and surviving anyway. At some point, I realized how cold it had gotten. When I turned to offer her my jacket, the bench was empty. No footsteps, no door opening, nothing, just me, and the echo of her words. I stood there for a while, half expecting her to reappear, to laugh and say she'd gone to the bathroom or something normal and explainable. She didn't. When I finally left the station, I noticed something strange. On the wall near the exit, partially hidden under layers of graffiti, was a faded plaque. It read, in memory of Eleanor Whitaker, 1949 to 2011, who believed that every journey mattered, even the ones that ended early. I googled the name when I got home. She'd been a local artist, lived nearby, known for mentoring people informally, strangers, students, anyone who looked lost. Died years ago. I didn't sleep that night, or the next, or really well for weeks after, but something had shifted. I stopped trying to catch up, stopped asking if I was behind. I let myself grieve not just the obvious losses, but the quiet ones. The life I thought I'd have by now, the certainty I assumed adulthood came with. I started over in small, unglamorous ways. Took a part-time job that paid the bills but didn't define me. Went to therapy and actually told the truth. Sat with my dad and learned how to be present instead of useful. And slowly, so slowly it almost felt imaginary, I built something new. Not the life I planned, but one that fit. Years later, I went back to that station. It's been renovated now. Clean, bright, functional. There's a cafe where the bench used to be. Sometimes I sit there with a coffee and watch people come and go, dragging suitcases full of expectations, hopes, fears. And every now and then, when someone looks especially lost, I want to tell them the best advice I ever received. Not loudly, not dramatically, just softly, gently. Stop trying to be understood by the version of you that no longer exists. You're allowed to